Now we'll go to my point. This one might actually be controversial because technically we've referenced this guy already. It's obviously the brand new news that Aleksib is going to NiP. Now, again, what's funny is a lot of Peter's points in the other categories might counter some of the points we're making now, but obviously hold that, pretend you don't know that, and I didn't just say that. We're going to just address this one topic. I'll just basically say to start, because I just want to get you guys in on first so I know how much I want to talk about it, because spoiler, I'll also do a video on it separately. Double dip on my own fucking channel. Whatever, not everyone watches everything. See, if you all watched everything, I wouldn't have to do this. It's sort of your fault, you, the fans. I'm not greedy. But we'll be double. I'm basically workshopping this now to make the video better. So I think Aleksib being a NiP is actually a banger move. And specifically for this reason, I'm not joking. They did a really good job keeping this secret. There was nothing behind the scenes for anyone, as far as I know, about this move. I didn't hear a single rumbling. And as a result, I didn't even conceive this move was possible. I mean, listen, I actually have suggested that any team out there sign Aleksib, and obviously I think I might even have done a tweet saying I would go international or whatever, get someone like Alex or Aleksib. But I did genuinely think, in part because of the Broland story, but also because Device isn't going to play, well, he's not going to play again, and Tag probably can just speak a little bit of Swedish and doesn't have to speak that much anyway. My logic was they're always going to be a Swedish team, aren't they? And the core's going to be Swedish. It was implied Broland wanted a Swedish team or whatever, and maybe didn't like Fnatic. Spoiler, I'll translate that for you. He really didn't like Smooya. He really didn't like him. But you can keep thinking, it's just doesn't like international teams. Mate, that would be like going, oh, they just don't like tourists. Meanwhile, you're really just thinking of like British football hooligans. Bit different, isn't it? You know, there's a bit of a distinction there between the American with the guy, can I take a picture? Like, England! Like that. That's the difference. I don't really know if Rowan hates international teams. I think he likes winning, mate. That's what I would guess. I think he just wants to win on LAN and be really good. So I think the Aleksib move is a banger, and for this exact reason. NiP got so much out of that fucking rifle core once Broland came in. The amount of times they almost beat the best teams in the world, almost did like a top 4 runner or 5, but you notice they never did though. They'd get like the upsets, they'd do a really good job, and they'd always just fall short. And that just shows that fragging isn't enough. They had good fragging. The other parts I do think were questionable as fuck what they were doing with the supportive elements. But to me, I always said this about Hampers. He's another a blame F. Just get him off IGL and we're fine. Make him just a player, and he's actually a really fucking good player. He has like mad advantages that you don't get from someone else. But as an IGL, he always seemed a bit played out. And quite frankly, if you look, it wasn't until like the DGL guy got going that they even got half good T-sides. Like, I do think that Aleksib, for this specific team, this might be the perfect team. Like, I hadn't conceived it, so I hadn't really considered, like, what would you do actually? Because if I think about it, right, they're a Swedish team. They were literally originally the core raised by Threat. If you don't know Threat, by the way, Threat is one of the ultimate guys who's going to like have the whole game plan, and like we've got all these smokes and utility setups, and we're prepping it all before, and we're thinking of the conditioning we're doing. That's exactly what Aleksib is going to love. Dude, I think this is going to be like the perfect sort of... That sort of players he's gotten, I actually think are going to like this style, because they've just tried playing loosey-goosey for the last year or so. It was all right, but it isn't 2015. You can't just be Swedish, play loose and frag out like that. That whole formula worked because they had the best players in the world in Sweden at the time. Like, that will boost you. So look, I don't know that it'll definitely work, but I think considering that, I was trying to always scramble, like, who could they bring in though? Like, who can speak Swedish and be like, there isn't anyone, right? It's like you have to try Golden again, or I don't know, again, do you bring in some new person we've never heard of? Like obviously the whole thing, people, this is how you know how bad it got for NiP. People were like, maybe you bring back ZTR. It's like, that was ages ago. Holy shit, like, how weak is the field? So I actually think out of nowhere to get Aleksib, I think it's a great move for both parties. Whether it works or not, I think it's the right move. It's like worth a gamble on both sides for me. What do you guys think? Disagree?
Yeah, I disagree. I mean, I disagree about the first thing that I'm disagreeing about is like, how will they communicate? You know, I mean, obviously speaking English. I know some Finnish people do know Swedish, but once Aleksib is dead, are they just going to transition from English talking Swedish?
I would assume it's English. Yeah,
it's the thing. Report or whatever. Their own statement from NiP, it said they're going to switch to English.
Yeah. Because here's the thing, it's as far as I know, it's only the people at the bottom of Finland, I think, who really do like the fluent Swedish, right? They're like top of Sweden. I think the rest just do it in school, but it's like you do it for a few years, you just quit. So I think most of them can't speak Swedish as far as I know out of Finns, and also they have an Nepali accent, it goes out saying.
Yeah. I mean, the second thing about it is that, okay, so now they have two IGLs. Obviously, Hampus won't be IGLing. He will, what I've heard, transition to a lurker role.
Makes sense, yeah.
But the thing is, like, I get a sense about the team overall is that as soon as something's not working, we need to like change. Like they're not trying to fix the problems; they're trying to find solutions to problems, and that's my like take on an NiP. I will talk more about it later.
He's got one that's foreshadowing there, exactly.
Yeah, but the Aleksib signing would be, in my sense, would be good if they change one more player. And
there we go.
And really
right.
make it like
okay.
international. But just simply removing a player, Plopsky, who, in my time in NiP, he got to play the roles that he wanted to. Now they bring in Brolan, and he's really good. So, okay, who's going to take the shitty positions, the hooksy positions in NiP? Okay, Plopsky, you take it, because Plopsky is like a really quiet guy, like very humble. So he won't say like, no, I want to do my thing. He will say, okay, I'll do it. And then he gets all the blame for, obviously, the like, just going into any forum, you will see minus Plopsky plus, I don't know.
Of course.
You know? And so that's just like my take on it, that they're trying to switch. Like Hampus IGL'd early, didn't work. Okay, now ZTR, you're gonna call, and Hampus like, maybe I should call. Go back to calling. We had Brolan. Okay, Estag, you're gonna op. No, Rez, you're gonna op. Like just mixing all the time. Like they don't get like. I think overall the foundation of the team is messed up. So Aleksib, okay, plus one guy.
There you go. Come on, Maui. What do you think?
I would say that this does a couple good things for NiP for me. The first was that I wasn't obviously writing in the HLTV forums, but I was saying that they should just trim the fat here.
You might have been, to be fair. You admitted you once had like a burner account. You flamed me or something. So I bet you had a fucking secret account there at some point.
I'm definitely not on the HLTV forums typing up anything at all. If I do, in the rare case, it's just under my username. But
all right, fair enough.
Okay, so with the Aleksib, well, the whole thing is just that I think that. There's a couple things that maybe I kind of lagged when you guys were talking, so I don't know correct me or say if you said this already, whatever, is that Red started opping 3 games.
We didn't talk about him at all.
Okay, so after 3 games in this ESL Pro League group stage, they switched Esatag off of the op and they put Rez on the op. In the games that he played since then, he did very well. Like he was actually, he kind of had a rough start with the weapon, but then when he played against Na'Vi, there were obviously, in the Na'Vi game that they played, there were some kind of weird extenuating circumstances where all Na'Vi had to do in that series was win 1 map, but they had to win 1 map in order to make playoffs. In the first map, Rez was opping against Simple, and he was the top, he was the highest rated player for that map. In the second map, where Na'Vi also was trying very hard, Rez was did very well for himself yet again. And so in 2 pretty serious games against Na'Vi, Rez was very good. And what I saw in the series is that Esatag kind of switched to a more supportive role. And so I kind of was judging in these couple series where Rez was now taking the op away from Esatag. Who do I like more as the support player? Do I like Esatag more, or do I like Plopsky more? And I would say certainly I liked what Esatag was doing much more. So if you had to get rid of anybody and make one person the support of those two to make way for this Aleksib move, instantly I would have taken Esatag. I thought that even though he just switched off the op, he was probably practicing with that gun, barely touching the rifles or anything like that. Immediately he looked like he fit more into these roles than Plopsky did. So I'm a fan of the fact that it is Plopsky out as opposed to Esatag, because I think there's probably a little bit of a debate there who it could have been between the two of them. As for the entire move itself, I think I'm not really sure if I'm completely sold that this is the exact kind of roster that Aleksib is going to do incredible work with, but I do think that something really needed to happen, because the way that I was reading this team for NiP is that the mental situation for them was very bad in terms of they knew they were so hard capped without a strong opper. Like the other players were bringing up almost like the problems with each other in some of the interviews. I remember Esatag said something about Hampus's mood. I'm pretty sure someone else on NiP said something about the opper situation. Like people were just saying a lot of different stuff, and almost felt like people were pointing the fingers at each other. And I have to imagine that there was some kind of kerfuffle with just how they were treating each other. I think they were just starting to get a little cannibalize each other or something. Like it didn't sound very good from their side of things. And even with how PR friendly some of their answers were, I thought there was something going amiss or amok in their camp. So this needed to happen as soon as possible. So I'm glad just anything happened for the NiP, because they should, with the rifle core that they have, there's no reason this team should not be top 8 in the world.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the thing is, if people remember, when S-Attack joined, I did say I thought it was a good move because I thought the whole thing is he's going to make the hard support, isn't he? Obviously, like, you're going to have all the shit roles, and the idea is he comes from fucking Danish CS now. He's just going to be like a building piece to make the rest of the foundation work. I didn't know they were going to make him the primary AWPer, guys. Like, obviously, that goes without saying. And that's also why I say the amount they got out of that rifle core is mental. Because imagine saying to someone, I'm going to build a team that's trying to be a top 5 in the world. All right, well, you're going to probably not have everything, right? Yeah, I'm not going to have like a good IGL or AWPer. What? Counter-Strike? CSGO? Like, you're not talking about like some other version. Like, that's impossible. I actually think what they even did with some of the placings was impossible, guys. And the fact, by the way, they were also even doing it with like LNZ and stuff like that. I think some of the shit, like, that's why I give that coaching staff mad props. Like, they were working miracles with these fucking players, man. How are you doing that? That's not even a real team. Like, that's also what I mean about the XBO. You notice I kept saying, I'm not predicting they'll necessarily be the best. Here's the thing. Now I can finally get excited about NiP. Before, the only hope was Device comes back. Even that wouldn't fix the IGL thing, by the way. Now it's like, look, aside from like a true AWPer, the rest of the team's a real team. We've got like the support development, we've got the rifle stars, we've got a young star, we've got like a middling to aging star, and we've got actually all the pieces you want minus AWPer. And by the way, like if they're going to go international, this is what all people also don't think about. So it sort of ties in what you're saying, Peter. If we're going to speak English anyway, now we can get an AWPer. Now we can. Because remember, the same problem was, who are the Swedish AWPers? That's why the Kino guy was AWPer at one point, and we were so like, to me, that was an example. By the way, I also do think, as an aside, this is just the end of national teams unless you're Danish. Like, unless you're Danish or maybe German, like Big chooses to do it. Unless you sort of go out of your way. Either Danish, Gendar can get away with it because they've got all the players. Big just does it as the gimmick and opt into it. But aside from that, you can see even France and Sweden, for fuck's sake, aren't going to go all 5. Because at this point in time, I've talked about this to death on the other shows, so we won't go into it. But the real problem is, you don't have the pipeline of talent those countries once did. They used to have such amazing domestic scenes that, like, the joke is you really would go to a local LAN and then someone would drop like 39 frags on you and you'd be like, maybe we should check this guy out. And then you'd bring him in your team and he would be like the next great player in the world. That hasn't been the case in Sweden for so long now. It's like, now you have to just be an FPL player, which, spoiler, that's every country. Like, the joke now is you might get your next player from Estonia or something. You don't even look to the traditional countries. So in general, I just think, like, basically that's why I say it's a good move. I think it's just, he's on a proper team again. It actually looks like a real team. Now they can maybe do something. And I don't have to keep thinking, what if Device comes? Because that ship has sailed as far as I know. Right, let's move on then. We'll go to the bad.
This is the globalism the Queen would have wanted.
There you go. Exactly. Except they should be a UK team, obviously.
Of course.
I mean, the joke is I would just want an English team, but you know, that's not the podcast for that, Mauisnake.
Okay.
Right. Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.